the person to blame if somebody does something legal that you consider morally incorrect is the person that made the law in the first place. It's not the person who's just acting by the letter of the law.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're always criticising those people, and yet they were guilty of a huge tax avoidance scheme themselves.
Now, welcome to another Free Speech podcast. As ever, I am the mad lad of Jihad. I'm joined by Mr. Hate Speech himself, the Gorilla Vanilla. Unfortunately, Dipsec Bird Gang is not here, but he's being replaced by someone whiter, better. Sorry, that makes us sound more racist than we are. No, Beijing Sensation
makes us sound about as racist as we are.
The Beijing Sensation is on tour, so we're joined by GB News, presenter of headliners, comedy extraordinaire, and famously was shown in the In-Betweeners ordering a fish, if I believe I'm correct. It's none other than the Bitcoin prawn cocktail. It's the Bitcoin billionaire. Welcome to the podcast.
Have you forgotten his name?
Dominic Frisby.
Because you're going on to Dominic Frisby.
Yeah, thank you very much, Darius. Pleasure to be here.
I did forget your name.
You were in the... He was Googling it just then. He was Googling who ordered a fish in the In-Betweeners. So you're in the In-Betweeners and you ordered a fish?
Prawns.
But a prawn cocktail, I mean, yeah.
So I said prawn cocktail, it was actually prawns.
Prawns.
At the prawn counter.
Gambas peel.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of stuff because you also, you were a boxing commentator for David Hayes' fight at Wembley?
No, I never did one of David's fights. I did his company put on fights and I did the ring announcing for them.
Right.
And for Setanta. Do you remember Setanta?
I remember Setanta, yeah.
I was
Setanta Claus.
Ring announcer, yeah.
So you were the Bruce Buck. Is it Bruce Buck?
Michael, not Michael Barrymore.
Buffer.
Michael Buffer. Yeah.
Michael,
Could you do a ring announcement now for the pod?
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome to the podcast Leo KEARSE and...
You've forgotten the names.
Yeah.
Darius Davies in the red corner. You do all that.
Right.
We should ask you to do a little voiceover at the end of it so that we can get rid of Darius for these awful fucking intros every fucking week, and we can just have a little
This is unacceptable, Leo.
Yeah.
We can have a little sound drop instead.
I will say I quite like Darius's introduction. I felt it was shabby chic.
Right.
Shabby shit is what it was.
Maybe that was what I was going
He's
for.
trying to pronounce a shabby chick. That's Mr. K off the end. Do you think that'll ever be you can get a flame damaged cage that's been used to burn Jordanian pilots?
That's grim. Yeah, I'm sure. That's really horrible. I forgot about those videos until you just reminded me of them now.
And what's the best way? Because you're a financial expert and you write for Money Week, I think.
Yeah.
And so, what's the best way of us to avoid, to number one, get more money, and number two, dodge taxes? Or evade. What's the right word?
Well,
avoision.
What's the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion?
I don't know.
Tax evasion is what left-wing comics criticise Amazon and Starbucks for, and tax Fuck, I've got it wrong. Tax avoidance is what left-wing comics. Tax avoidance is what left-wing comics criticise Amazon and Starbucks for.
So it's not illegal.
Tax evasion is what they do with the money they get paid at Cash Geeks.
Ah, right. So when somebody such as Mark Steele, for example, big old lefty, except when it comes to his own family. By the way, I can slag off Mark Steele because he slagged me off on Twitter. He called me I can't remember what he called me, an imbecile or something like that.
Leo's feud of the week.
He made an observation.
Rachel Corrin.
He made
an observation.
No, I'm not an imbecile. And like Mark Steele's...
You're our imbecile.
We'll get to his tax affairs in a moment, but Mark Steele's one of these people who's all, oh, tours are so bad, they're so nepotistic. Then he gets his own son, who's like, at the age of 4.5, gets him signed to his own agency off the creek or whatever the fuck it, what were they called?
To be fair, Elliot's a good comic.
Is he better than me, Mooch?
Maybe.
He's not. He's not better than me.
But there's other comics who are probably better than, not better than you, who are signed as well.
Who is better than you?
There's some people. None in this podcast, but
Louis C.K.
Yeah, Louis C.K.'s good. But like, I mean, like, fair enough. Elliot Steele, perfectly fine comedian. I've gigged with him plenty of times. I've got nothing against Elliot whatsoever. I've got something against Mark because he called me a fucking imbecile. But this whole, slagging off the Tories for nepotism, and then, because at the age of, 3 months or whatever age Elliot got signed to Mark's agency, Elliot wasn't displaying those. I mean, it was pure the purest of pure Tory nepotism, stepping over grafting working class people who keep coal in the bath and struggle and have to get the milk float, some horrible shitty bus to their gigs in northern working men's clubs and stuff. And Mark Steele, this cosseted milquetoast, this elite, this urban Radio 4 BBC taxpayer sucking elite, uses that power and that influence to get his son, aged newborn son, signed to his agency. Before he's even displayed any sort of interest in comedy. It's pure nepotism.
Are you sure that's the case? Wait,
it is the case.
Are you sure Elliot
It's the case.
Well, we don't know that. All I know about Elliot is...
Yeah, of course we know it. Of course we... the Queen gave Prince Andrew 7 million quid or whatever, 12 million quid to pay off his all his nonsense. But is it because he's his mum? We don't know. Maybe it's just a random coincidence. Come on.
I'm not saying it's not a rat, but I've seen Elliot doing this shit gigs and being at the shit gigs. It's not like he just bypassed the circuit.
Even if, man, even
I don't
obviously
see what his agents have got him. What I think he's not.
What are the biggest agents? What are the biggest agents in the country? What possible benefit could it be having the biggest agents in the country, Darius?
What have they got him? Is what I've asked you. Is what have they got him? Tangible. What have they got him that you can say?
I've got him a podcast right here at Vauxhall Podcast Studio every Thursday with Michael Odewale. So let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, but we should probably.
I'm going to leave a bomb in this podcast studio like the IRA did in Brighton. No, I'm not. I got nothing against Elliot. And I'd say that if he wasn't an MMA person.
I once had a shoulder to shoulder with him and we played football, and he absolutely, I just went like that and I went straight over. He's quite strong.
Right, yeah. Well, against karate. But so Mark Steele obviously pays his tax in full.
Tax avoidance is minimising your tax, the amount of tax you have to pay legally.
Which is legal.
And
it's
tax
allowed.
Evasion is just evading tax.
Yeah.
But why do you know so much about tax, Dominic?
Because I wrote a book called Daylight Robbery, Darius, which is all about the past, present and future of taxation.
I think also because he probably pays it on time and knows what he's paying rather than 2 months later when the El Vance prescription comes in.
You're talking about NICO. I already had my prescription and I put it all in by January the 31st on the deadline at the deadline.
Done.
But the point is, I was trying to get Dominic to just briefly explain who he is, what he's done. Give us a little potted history about you, Dominic, and then I'll fill in the details.
You seem to be like a busy man. You've written books, you're presenting, you do comedy, all sorts.
Yeah, I am. I get bored quite easily, so I need to be busy. I'm a bit like you in that respect, Leo. And but I'm 52, and
how old are you really?
No, I'm 52. I was born 9th of September 1969, and I went to university and then I went to drama school. But the reason I went to drama school is because all the best writers, I wanted to be a writer, and all the best writers started out as actors. So I figured I'd start out as an actor. Even like Shakespeare or Charles Dickens, all the best writers, they all started out as actors. So that was my logic. And then when I was at drama school, for some reason, I always came top in radio. I was the best at radio in my class, and I got a voiceover agent as soon as I left, and they just got me really well-paid jobs within a week of leaving drama school. So I never really did as much acting as I would have liked, perhaps. And then I was doing very well at voiceovers, and I forgot that the main purpose was to be a writer. And then in the late 90s, I had written this comic song called The Upper Class Rapper, 1997.
There's a lot of people sort of did that sort of upper class rapping thing.
Yeah, but I was the first.
Oh, were you the first?
By a long, long way.
And then what's his name?
Gentleman Rhymer and all that. Yeah,
right,
I was like 10 years before him.
Right.
And anyway, and I had been at university with a guy called Alex Hardy, who was Malcolm Hardy's little brother. And I said to Alex, he used to run comedy clubs at university, but now
just to quickly interrupt you, Malcolm Hardy, for those who don't know, is a famous promoter who used to promote Up the Creek, and then he died in a boating accident or something, and he was absolutely crazy.
He fell off his boat when he was pissed and died in the Thames. Yeah. Anyway, that was about 2005, 2006, something like that. Anyway, but Alex at this point was a music agent. And
I know Alex Hardy.
Alex, we probably
from
do.
Coda.
Probably. He represents like the Scissor Sisters.
Yeah, I know.
Back in the day, he did. I don't know if it's
that Alex Hardy.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
So that would be. He's quite a big cheese. In
yeah. It used to be for Coda, and then now it's Paradigm.
Maybe.
Get him on our podcast.
I don't. He's quite busy.
Yeah.
Oh, that Alex Hardy.
Yeah, that's Malcolm's little brother. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's mad.
And he had his sort of brother's entrepreneurial zeal, but with not quite the same self-destruct button that
I don't
Malcolm
know.
had.
He likes to drink.
He does, but not to the same level as Malcolm. Anyway, we had been mates at uni, and I said to him, I've got this song, can you make a Christmas novelty single? Because in those days, the comic song would always go to number one at Christmas. Yeah. And he said, go and do it at my brother's club. So I said, okay. So I went down, and this was a Sunday night, which used to be the open spot night at Up the Creek. And all the acts in the first half died, and then after the break, the open spots went on. And the first open spot was a guy called, what was his name? Hovis Presley. Have you ever heard of him? He's no longer with us. And he was funny northern act. One of his lines I remember was, my mate's got a dog called Nigel. Talk about giving a dog a bad name. That always stuck with me. Anyway, Hovis had a bad gig, but he was really good, and he wouldn't get off. And the Up the Creek audience wanted him off. And so there was this sort of battle of wills that went on for about 10 minutes. And then I went on, and I borrowed my flatmate at the time's suit. And I said, hello, I'm the rapper. And then somebody shouted out, you just lost an election. And it was literally a week after the Tories had lost that landslide election in 1997. Do you remember when Tony Blair?
Ironically, because you look a bit like Tony Blair.
I do. I'm a spitting image of it. Anyway, and so I thought, oh, that's funny. Anyway, I did the rap, and it went very well. And in those days, if you had a good open spot, they would honour it and give you a paid spot straight away. So the following Friday, I had my first half spot, and that went very well. And then about 3 months later, on the day that Lady Diana died, I got my first 20-minute set, all from Up the Creek. So before I knew it, I was sort of working as a stand-up comic, and that went on for a long.
Still's dead.
What's that?
But it did happen. It did, in a way, it happened through nepotism, because I happened to know Alex, and Alex introduced me to Malcolm, and that's how it all happens. But that's the way the world works.
Yeah. When can we get some nepotism, Darius? We've been grafting away for like about 15 years, getting fucking nowhere, because we don't have any nepotisms.
We need more nepotisms. Also, you're married to David Hayes' sister. Am I allowed to say that? Or you were married? You were.
Yeah.
Which I
didn't know that.
about.
Yeah, that's how I got the ring announcing job.
Right. More nepotism.
Also nepotism.
Turns out nepotism's the only thing that works in this business.
Both of you could have married maybe David Hayes' sister, and then you could have been.
Darius could marry David Hay.
Yeah.
When I married her, though,
David
she
Hayes'
was.
sister's really fit.
She's hot, but David wasn't. He wasn't
heavyweight champion of the world.
Not at that point.
All right.
Yeah. When we got divorced, he threatened
Bitcoin.
to roll me up in a carpet and leave me in the woods.
Really? You could just roll yourself out of it. You'd also have a carpet to sit on.
Yeah.
If you wanted to think about
I think he meant he would murder him. Did he mean he'd murder you?
I think. I don't know.
You don't know.
In the anus.
But yeah.
But he didn't do it.
See, and that's nepotism. You wouldn't have got
secretly
that.
Secretly scared of you.
Yeah.
Because you batter him. Because he can just use his fists. You can use your feet.
Yeah.
Because you're not a boxer.
Yeah. I still would fancy him ahead of me.
Fancy
him?
In that particular conflict.
I reckon I could batter Vladimir Putin and Ramzan Kadyrov, the Chechen leader. Vladimir Klitschko is pretty tough. And
Putin's 70. You should be able to say
he's 69.
I'm sorry.
69, yeah. And everybody goes on about how tough he is, but I don't think he's tough at all.
He's also quite short, isn't he?
He's tiny. He's 5'2".
No, that's Joe Rogan.
He's 5'2".
He's even shorter than Rishi Sunak.
He's short.
He's not 5'2".
There's no way he's 5'2".
Rishi Sunak's 5'1".
No, is Rishi Sunak
No, he's
short?
5'6". He's 5'6".
He looks quite
Putin,
tall.
that's amazing. So he really is a little Napoleon, because Napoleon was tiny. Hitler was tiny.
If you look at Putin's shoes, he wears these weird high heels, so his foot's like that, and it's also on a stack heel. So like a lot of his,
Oh, so that's why he's got that sort of cowboy weird.
yeah, a lot of his shoe is actually inside the trouser.
Tom Cruise does that.
He's
Yeah.
5'5". I just checked.
It's all 5'6".
That's what he says, but he lies. It's propaganda. He's 5'2". That's
Actually,
his
that might be
Tinder-
true.
Tinder
No
profile.
dude's ever told the truth about their height or their penis size. So minus.
I'm 6'6". It's about 120 inches long.
I'm 5'9.5".
Leo suffers from kyphosis, so he's actually 6'5". So once again, he lied.
I'm
Mild
actually
yet debilitating.
6'6".
Mild yet debilitating kyphosis. So,
Good
anyways,
though, you don't stoop. A lot of tall people stoop. You don't stoop.
Yeah,
I've always
try not
admired
to.
that about you.
Darius doesn't stoop either because he's got metalwork inside his back holding him up.
Yeah, it's true. I do. Got titanium rods and steel in my
Yeah,
spine.
It's like a crap X-Man.
Made a rod for his own back. Except it didn't. NHS made it.
Yeah, 2 rods, titanium.
Yeah.
So you were so bring us up to speed. So then you
Okay, so
you got,
so very quickly, then we're in the middle of the noughties now, and I'd made a bit of money, and I was looking at trying to work out what to do with it and how to invest it and stuff. And I started reading the internet late at night, as you do, and I sort of started reading about gold, and I thought, oh, this is very interesting. There were all these really interesting people talking about it, and I wanted to find a way to meet them. So I did what you guys do: is I started a podcast, an investment podcast, and started to interview these people. Basically, it was just me getting free financial advice, but the podcast was very popular for a bit. This is in the early days of podcasting. It was like the UK's most listened to financial podcast
Whoa.
at one point. And then, but one of the people I interviewed was a lady called Merrin Somerset Webb.
Oh yeah, she's Money Week, is it?
She's the editor of Money Week and also writes for the FT. But she said, oh, we need people like you writing about finance. So she just basically gave me a column at Money Week, which was 2006, and I've been writing it ever since.
Brilliant.
So that's how I became.
Some more nepotism.
How much money do you get for it?
Per column?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you, but
Do you get paid by
Is
the
it a lot? Because it's financial stuff.
you probably get a little bit more. Well, I'll give you some parameters. If you write an article for the Daily Mail and you get it published in the Daily Mail, it's like 900 quid.
Yeah, it's a lot of money for the
So
Daily
Daily
Mail.
Mail's like the only newspaper that pays really well. Whereas if you write one for the Guardian, you get 150 quid.
What?
Yeah. And Spiked, I did one for Spiked. And
You don't even get paid.
75 quid.
Oh, they didn't pay me.
Oh, really?
Because I suggested the idea. They said, oh, we don't pay. We only pay for stuff we solicit.
Oh, really? Well, they solicited it.
Oh, okay.
But then they solicited another one, and I couldn't really be bothered writing it, so I sent in a script from one of my videos. Just
They
like
drove
pretty
slowly
much on-
past
Did they
Leo.
publish that?
No, because it was shit and it wasn't an article. But then, so I wrote the thing for Spiked. But the good thing was, a lot of people read it, and then it's good for your reputation.
Yeah.
And also, we got free tickets to see Chappelle, and now free tickets to see Chris Rock. So,
Oh, wow.
go
Oh,
to see
wicked.
Chris Rock.
Just from
all,
writing for Spike.
all from that Spiked article.
Oh, wow. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And all they did was drive past Leo slowly in a car saying, you want to write an article? I got an article.
Yeah. The Guardian is
I was
like-
dressed like a journalist.
The Guardian pays really
Slag.
badly, but if you have an article on their site and people actually want to read it, it does turn you into a mini star for
Right.
about 2 or 3 days. And I'm sure 100% the reason why all those journalists like Owen Jones and Marina Hyde and all those sort of Guardian, stars, if you like, the reason that they're bigger names than the equivalent writers in the Times or the Telegraph is that the Times and the Telegraph are both behind a paywall.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're all saying we got to keep the Guardian free. It's not because of the interests of the Guardian; it's in the interests of them being famous. Because the Guardian is the best platform for any journalist.
Yeah, because it's like not behind a paywall, so millions of people can read it.
It's huge in America.
The Guardian. I did a thing with Rod Liddell for the Sunday Times, I think it was. And at the time, I was like, "Man, this is amazing! I'm going to get it's going to be." Yeah, and nothing. Got
Nobody
nothing.
reads it.
It was nobody reads it.
No one's paying for a
are they still on?
paywall.
Are they still on the paywall model? Like, do people pay for it? Is it
Some people subscribe. The Guardian you're talking about?
No, the Times. And
No,
stuff.
Times is subscription.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
same
And
with
Times,
Telegraph.
the Guardian's losing money hand over fist.
Is it?
Yeah,
Wicked.
massive. And it's
Oh.
but I think in the last
that
3 or
makes me
4
so
years
happy.
it's turned a corner. But the only thing that kept the Guardian afloat for years was the fact that they sold Auto Trader
Right.
magazine, which they used to own. But they're so hypocritical. They sold it via an offshore entity
Right.
and the money was kept offshore. So the Guardian never paid any capital gains tax.
Right.
And they go around. It's a classic what we were talking about, the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. What they did was legally correct, but how many articles have you read in the Guardian criticising Jacob Rees-Mogg or Aaron
Carr.
Banks or whoever,
Jimmy Carr,
Jimmy Carr, whoever hasn't paid their tax this week through some legally, the person to blame if somebody does something legal that you consider morally incorrect is the person that made the law in the first place. It's not the person who's just acting by the letter of the law.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're always criticising those people, and yet they were guilty of a huge tax avoidance scheme themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, the hypocrisy of the left. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought the left would be hypocrites?
They do that on everything, though. They're like, talking about private education, and then you look at every single member of their flipping staff is privately educated, and they're talking about how we should stop it and this, that, and the other.
And a lot of Labour MPs send their kids to private school. Like Diane Abbott, I think, is one of them.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you send your kids to...
better? Of course I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to be honest, like my cousins are were sent to private school, and because my uncle's Indian, just dropping that in case Victoria Corrin is watching. My uncle's Indian, so like my cousins went to private school. One of them's a doctor. Very unstereotypical for
an Indian.
Yeah. And the other one's a presenter for the BBC. Again, very unstereotypical. Whereas me and my brother went to state school, and we are absolute scumbags and didn't get anywhere with anything.
All the evidence is that people who go to private school go on to earn more money.
Yeah.
And most of the time they enjoy better careers. And even in something like the Olympic Games, which you'd think was fairly egalitarian.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's 7% of people go to private school or public school, if you call it what it's supposed to be called. And it's something like, I forget the number in the last Olympics, but it's something like 50% of the British Olympic athletes.
Yeah, but that's because it's like dressage.
There's some of the reasons because it's
like,
posh
can you
sport.
afford a horse
some
to
of it
dance?
Well, exactly.
Then,
some of it's that it's posh sports.
Yeah,
but even
shooting, fencing, and rowing.
A lot of it is that. But even things like athletics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think
that's also,
schools are overrepresented.
I think that's also
Leo didn't even have a level playing field at his school.
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't even have a level playing
to do with
field.
parenting
it sloped away at one corner.
Well, I think it's
Great
the
job,
money
Darius.
you've got, because if you're going to be an athlete for doing shot put, no one's going to really be sponsoring you enough to make a huge living, and the money you get paid from the government to pursue that is not great.
Also, I did some. I won an analytics award when I worked in analytics. I took the 2012 data from that, and I proved that the Olympics are an imperialistic, a racist neo-imperialistic canard. That was the title of my analysis.
That was when Leo was woke.
Was that in the Guardian?
It was tongue in cheek. No, it was for internal thing for BA Systems, Applied Intelligence. But so basically, if you look at all the things, all the sort of whiter countries and whiter athletes, because they tend to be richer. All the sort of like basically the Olympics, all the white countries have invented these like new sports like yachting and shooting and like sitting on a horse that does a fucking tap dance. But to get medals, all the authentic Olympic things like running and jumping,
throwing,
and running a different distance, the throwing
and then
something,
running and jumping,
and then running and jumping, and jumping a lot over a series of fucking
swimming
fences. They're all won. They tend to be won by people who are like Kenyans excel in the long distance running. They tend to be won by people of color, if I can use that phrase unironically. And it's basically that's why. And also, there's all this stuff with like women. Women are from certain countries where women are repressed or underrepresented, because it's pretty hard to do like 2,000 meters in a burqa. But I think it's wonderful, of course. I think everyone should wear a burqa.
Yeah.
So what about Bitcoin, Dominic? How'd you get into that?
Well, it's a very short, because I was writing a lot about gold, and gold's related to money. When Bitcoin was invented, loads of people got in touch and they were like, you've got to look at this. And I sort of missed the boat a little bit. And to sort of as a catch-up trade, I wrote a book about it, because I figured I'd become the main intellectual person in the space if I wasn't going to be the richest person in the space. And that was about 2013, 2014.
And is it still worth getting into Bitcoin now, would you say?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Really?
I'm off to Bitcoin Miami tomorrow.
Are you?
Yeah.
What is
brilliant.
it?
Yeah. It's the
You're going to do the
Bitcoin
podcast
conference.
next week?
I think I'm back in time, yeah.
So are you recording a
can
load
you
of
not-
podcasts out there?
I am going to, yeah. I do a podcast for cryptocurrency as well.
Which one? Which company?
Coin Bureau.
Okay.
And so we're going to go out there, do some podcasts, interview some people. There's some like Jordan Peterson is going to be there this year. There's some other people who I've read the list of talkers and I don't recognize many of them.
Right.
But yeah, they're apparently very important. Very
Yeah, they've got a Bitcoin comedian stage this year.
Oh, really?
And I was like, what? Why did I get asked to do that?
Why didn't I get asked to do that?
Yeah.
Who's on it? Are you on it?
It's all a load of
Oh,
American guys.
Yeah.
It's all
it'll be
nepotism.
American.
Tim Dillon was on last year with the Winklevoss twins, and he was hilarious. But yeah, I'm interested to see what it's like. Is it going to be full of geeks?
Massively. It's going to be 95% blokes.
Yeah.
And then 3% really, really ludicrously hot women who are only there for the rich blokes.
Wonderful.
But what is, like, with Bitcoin, isn't it like a bit of nonsense and it's all going to just collapse at some point?
No.
I told Leo
Why?
to buy Bitcoin and he said, "Oh, tulips," and he just started shouting tulips over and over.
That is
It's like
not
banging his head
that
against
is
the
not
wall.
a fair
Tulips.
representation. That is not a fair representation of what happened.
Tulips.
People always go tulips, right? The tulip bubble happened in Amsterdam in 1637.
Yeah.
Right? And here we
History
are in
repeats
2022, 400 years later. And where is the global centre of the tulip industry?
Amsterdam.
That bubble built an industry that's brought prosperity to Amsterdam for 400 years.
Yeah.
So to say that something's bad and by comparing it to tulips, it's a false argument.
Yeah, Leo.
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
bubble.
Leo.
I was
There
talking
was a
about the
little
bubble.
bubble, yeah.
Also, Bitcoin's got no intrinsic value,
Yes, it does.
and it doesn't.
Shed loads of computer power.
But what does anymore? Like the no
Gold.
currency no currency
Dollars.
is backed by gold. It's not. It's backed by arms.
Gold is backed by gold.
Yeah, gold has intrinsic
Yeah,
value.
but it's not currency.
Investment.
Dollars
It's
is
not
going
a
down.
legal tender.
Actually,
Well, it is
Dominic,
a
this
legal
is
tender, sorry.
interesting. What do you think about dollars with Russia now moving everything onto rubles and
And
trying
the
to sell
ruble.
gas in rubles and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, they what Russia and China want is the end of the dollar. They don't want the petrodollar anymore. They don't want the US dollar hegemony. And when the dollar loses its status as the global reserve currency, America's got problems. And Russia insisting on rubles, it's partly a way of forcing people to buy rubles and thereby propping up the ruble.
Yeah.
But it's also erodes. I mean, natural gas is sold in euros anyway, but it erodes the might of the euro and the dollar for sure.
Yeah.
Can I buy some gas off Putin because my bills are extortionate at the moment? And I would like to. If I can get some rubles.
You know,
Can we make a deal?
Probably already are.
in North America, gas is so abundant in oil fields that they don't even
They
just
flare
flare
it,
it off.
yeah.
They don't even bother sending it over. It's just insane that in one part of the world there's so much energy, it's cheaper just to dispose of it
To burn
in an
it.
environmentally unfriendly way.
Yeah.
And in another part of the world, people can't get warm. But
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
should
and
also
like,
do
but
the
they don't have the. They're already operating at capacity for the liquefied LPG, so they can liquefy it and then bring it to Europe. But all it's capacity.
It is, but this is where the beauty of Bitcoin is. There's a load of Bitcoin miners now that have set themselves up, and instead of them flaring off the gas and causing all the damage to the environment that goes with that, the pollution and so on, they're taking the gas and using it to fund crypto mining. So
Right.
it's actually, everyone says, "Oh, Bitcoin's really bad because it uses excess energy."
But
No,
so
what
does
it does
fiat.
is it actually uses energy in parts of the world that would otherwise be wasted.
Right. But also, like the
it's that energy
transactions,
that
you
gets
can't really spend it easily.
Yeah, you can.
No, you can't. How do you spend
Hold on,
it?
I just got a question before you go on to how you spend Bitcoin. Dominic, right? Didn't
Yeah.
Libya try and sell oil in
Darius
like,
loves
whatever
conspiracy theories.
in their money, and that's why they killed Gaddafi? Is that true or
Yeah,
not?
I think there's a common conspiracy theory that's the main reason they invaded Iraq, because he was trying to sell his oil in euros, Saddam Hussein. That's a common conspiracy, and there's probably some truth to it.
And what about Gaddafi in Libya? He was trying to sell.
I'm less sure about that one, but that makes sense. I have heard it.
He went into the Africa, whatever the UN is for Africa, and he said he wanted to start a new coin. I'm going to call it the Afro, but it might not have been called the Afro. And he went in, But I think it actually was called the Afro, and tried to get the whole of the African, oil producing nations to sell in that currency. Next thing you know, he's dead, and they're putting stuff up his ass.
Yeah, well, there's definitely the US dollar is protected by the US military.
Didn't France sort of like leave him out to dry as well, or something like that?
That was in the 60s with the gold.
Yeah.
Because they were printing dollars and they were supposed to be backed by gold, but they printed more dollars than they had gold. And Charles de Gaulle said, "We'll take the gold." And there was a massive run on gold, and America ended up coming off the gold standard, 1971.
Well, we're learning.
But it's a total rabbit hole. Once you go down this rabbit hole, and I've started going down it 2006, you never come out the other side.
Yeah.
And I'm just obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with money systems, how money works. And that's why I ended up writing a book about tax, because that's the next logical thing.
Yeah.
Once you start to look at things through this prism of money, and especially tax, everything just takes on a whole new light, and that's how I ended up.
So if I set myself up as a
rabbit hole,
if I set myself up as a limited
all
company,
he's interested in is how to make money out of it.
if I set up a limited company, so it doesn't cost that much to set up.
£14.
Like 200 quid or something.
No, not even that. £14. Just go
Oh,
register.
is it that cheap?
Yeah, if you do it via an accountant, they might charge you that. But if you
okay.
just go online, it's 14 quid.
Then have you got to put your home address online so people can see your home address?
You can have it hidden.
Right, cool.
You can have it hidden, or you can just put another. I just register mine at my accountant's.
Right, yeah.
It's really this is not great podcasting, but
No, people are interested in this. People are interested in how so you set yourself up as a limited company.
Yeah.
And then, but you're saying you don't actually save that much in tax.
Well, you used to, because corporation tax used to be whatever it was, 15%. Now corporation tax is rising to, I think, 23-24%. So by the time you pay corporation tax
and
the cost
tax
of
on your
running the company
dividends
and tax on the dividends, it works out about the same as
But
so I might as well just pay tax.
No, because if you can also
get your VAT back, you do save on
run loads of expenses through. So all your camera gear is expenses because you use that for your
But
videos.
it's expenses anyway as a full
but
trader.
when you buy a camera for 500 quid, whatever, 100 quid of that, a bit more than 100.
1,500, Dominic. I use better cameras than you.
Okay, so if you buy one for 1,500 quid, there'll be 300 odd quid of VAT in there,
Right.
which you could claim back.
Oh, right. So it
What's
is what I'm doing.
IR35? IR35, Dominic.
Yeah, what's IR35?
IR35 is the form, I think, that determines whether you're staff or freelance. Is that right?
I don't know.
I think
I
that's
don't
right.
know. You're the tax expert.
I'm not so good at. I'm more on the history of tax and the philosophy of tax.
What
and
other arcane-
nitty-gritty of IR35 forms?
What other arcane serial numbers have you got, Darius? Let's try and catch him out.
Just my
P46,
my formerly tax scams. I was gonna say so.
Or maybe IR35 is just your tax return. I don't know.
No, IR35. I believe it's so you're working freelance for a corporate company.
That's right,
and
that's
you
right.
take dividends.
Yeah, and you were going to go and live in Sark.
I was at one stage because what
is Sark?
Sark is a Channel island just to the south of Guernsey. So it's between Guernsey and the French coast. You can see France from Sark. And there's only 1,500 people on the island. And during the lockdown, you get a bit insular, don't you, in the lockdown? And I just assumed this was the new reality and I was never going to need to leave the house ever again. And I was doing all this work and I could just as easily have done it from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine lives there and he was going, you should come and live on Sark. There's no income tax, no VAT.
No money back, no guarantee.
No guarantee.
And no capital gains tax either.
That's not how it goes.
That's not a lyric.
And the only tax they have is what's called land value tax.
Right.
And one of the philosophical things that I argue for is that we pay too much, we're taxed too much on our labour and not enough on our capital and assets. And land value tax is a you saw my video on land value tax, you liked it.
Yeah.
So it's a country that is run according to a political philosophy which I'm on board with.
Yeah, I mean, the land value thing, because the thing is, if I own land and the price of it goes up, a lot of that price rise isn't because of
You haven't done anything.
investment that I've made in the land. I haven't done anything. And the people who've made the value of the land go up aren't getting any return on that increased value. But
Does an American
but
have
it's
like a property tax that's a bit more in line with that?
It's at odds with the idea of like
little bit,
private
some say.
ownership. private ownership of property.
It is at odds with that theory, but the idea of a land value tax, and it goes back to like the game Monopoly was invented by there was a philosopher called Henry George in the late 19th century in America, and he came up with this idea of the single tax. So you would only pay this one tax. You wouldn't have VAT and fuel duty and alcohol and capital gains tax and income tax. You would just pay one tax, which was a tax based on the amount of land that you use in a year.
Right.
And that's the only tax you would pay. And Monopoly was invented to demonstrate how corrupt our monopolistic system of land ownership is.
Right.
And but it actually got plagiarized by somebody else who then went on and made the money out of it. So the person who invented the game never made the money from it.
Right.
But anyway, but the idea is you would only pay this one tax, and the idea is that the land is owned by nobody made the land, nature made it or God made it, whatever religion you subscribe to. It was already there, and therefore it should be owned communally. What is on the land, i.e. the house, is there as a result of somebody's endeavour. So that should be privately owned, but the actual land itself should be shared. And if you want exclusive
Sounds like
rights,
communism.
it is sort of communistic, that if you want exclusive rights to a plot of land, then you have to pay a fee every year to the government to protect your rights to that property.
So everything's leasehold and nothing's freehold.
Yeah.
No, you would. I guess so. You could still own the freehold, but you would have a rental payable to the government, and then the amount that you pay, it could be a tiny amount if you want a government doing very little, or it could be a massive amount if you want government providing this everything.
Yeah.
But it's a transparent tax, and it creates a very healthy balance between government and taxpayer, where one is answerable to the other, in a way that doesn't happen with income tax.
And the only
you pay your income
country
tax, nobody even says thank you. It's just taken and then it's spent. You've got no control over how it's spent or anything.
Yeah.
But what country does that right now? Just that SARC place?
Well, SARC does it, but there's a few countries that have land value tax and other taxes. I think Denmark, Botswana, maybe New Zealand, but they all, even like what the Tories are going to do is, or whoever succeeds them, is we'll end up with some kind of mansion tax. The answer to the fact that they've presided over this unaffordable housing will be to tax expensive houses. So we'll end up with some kind of mansion tax, which would be a bastardised form of land value tax in addition to other taxes. The reason for land value tax is it should replace all other taxes.
Yeah, because there's too many taxes, so many different taxes.
Our
it's
tax
unreal.
code is like 14 times the length of all the Harry Potter books combined.
Really?
Ridiculous, yeah. 20 million words.
Right. And is the person who wrote it transphobic?
It wasn't written by one, it was written by committee, and that's why it's got so...
Transphobic committee.
She's been, I imagine some of them are, but they don't declare they don't defend women.
So they haven't got a transphobe tax yet?
Not yet.
Yeah, it's funny how J.K. Rowling went, just like in a couple of years, she went from being the absolute darling of the left, didn't change her opinions whatsoever, and then like all of a sudden she's like, she's so evil. And now people on Twitter, somebody this week on Twitter called for her death.
And didn't get their post removed.
And didn't get their post removed. And other people...
How very brave.
Other people are tweeting banal stuff, like the Babylon Bee tweeted that Rachel Levine, who is the beautiful and real woman who's what is she, some kind of
General.
defense secretary or something, or general, is their man of the year. And obviously they're joking. It's just, obviously she's a woman. She's just got some male attributes, like being born male, and she's got a penis. So, they're joking when they say she's a man of the year. It's a joke. But Twitter banned them, took them down. That's why Elon Musk swept
I was just going to say,
in.
Well, hopefully he's going to sort it out. He made a noise about it today, but what will have happened there is some pro-trans person will have lobbied whoever it is at Twitter. You've got to remove this tweet. You've got to remove this tweet. And the person who does all the monitoring at Twitter would have just removed it to save themselves an earache.
Yeah. And everyone at Twitter, probably internal as well, because everyone at Twitter, apparently 97% of the company are fat, green-haired women with septum piercings who are non-binary. And that's a fact. I saw it in
those non-binary women.
They're non-binary women.
Did you use similar data when you compiled your Olympic report on the Olympics?
I used the real data. That was when my analysis had to be properly audited and stuff, because I was doing it for a.
But Elon taking over Twitter
thing.
is interesting, isn't it? I mean, he's a character, but it is also a move into the social media market. Do you know what I mean?
He already is the sort of social, because they don't have any sort of traditional advertising. They just rely on Elon Musk's Twitter presence.
They have, well.
They do. I guess he's monetizing his Twitter handle because he's bringing them so much wealth just by being on Twitter all the time.
Yeah. I mean, he has.
He's
He's going to bring back Donald Trump, isn't he? That's his first move.
Yeah, well, they
He
should.
said that.
Well, I think so. That was
Tesla advertising budget $0. Tesla is the only manufacturer in the industry to spend $0 on advertising, while nearly $3,000 in R&D per vehicles. R&D is
That's
research and
fantastic,
development.
isn't it?
Yeah.
He totally relies on people loving the product and users being the best advertisers.
Yeah. So he's beating all the advertising is the most sort of pointless industry anyway.
I don't know.
more so than comedy.
Don't say that. If they advertise on your podcast, you could earn a lot of money from an advertiser.
Yeah, money completely wasted.
No, but
I'm happy. We're obviously happy to take it.
No, but if Leo KEARSE, promotes a particular type of kilt or something, then it might be advertisers.
Yeah, but that's I think
Leo KEARSE financial advice.
I think specific influencer, because we're all influencers on this podcast.
I'm a thought leader.
Influencer advertising works. Because it's like Dapper Laughs was saying to us, he's got he's identified the sort of people who follow him and what they like, so he can market gambling stuff, cocaine, hangover cures,
and sports cars, sports car rental companies.
Yeah, directly to them.
Yeah.
So so same sort of thing. But this
have quite
mass
a
market
level guests on here, don't we?
Yeah. We had a porn star.
Yeah.
I can
We should get her back.
recite ads and jingles and things from 70s, 80s when I was growing up.
Yeah.
90s.
Let's play the jingle game. Well, let's play the jingle game. See if you can guess what advert this is.
Right.
Danon.
Danon.
There you
But
go,
That's
see?
later. But
All right,
recent.
I'll do another one of the jingle game.
I'm loving it, McDonald's.
That's right. I knew you'd get it, you fat shit. Let's do another one.
These are
I'm loving it. You just sang.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
loving it. Oh, it sounded like a strangled cock.
Yeah, he was like,
Yeah.
So like
thinking it's
Michael
an advert.
trying to
Jackson's
think of
death.
another. I'm
Farm
trying to
product.
think of. Bum 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 bum.
Dell.
Pentium
Pen.
processors.
Intel
Intel.
That bloke-
inside.
Yeah, the guy who wrote that made a fortune, I think.
Right.
Little jingle. Anyway,
Every time you say Intel, bum 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 bum, you have to say do the
I
noise.
thought it was Pentium.
What about this? You'll never put a better bit of butter on your knife.
Lurpak. I've
No,
never
it
even
wasn't.
heard that.
It's
advert.
not
Anchor.
what I mean.
I don't know.
Country life, butter.
Country life.
There you go.
Umbongo,
rolls.
umbongo, they drink it in the jungle.
What is that, Darius? Say it a bit louder.
Just sing.
Umbongo, umbongo, they drink it in the jungle. That
In the
was when
Congo.
adverts in the Congo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Umbongo.
Yeah.
What
That was
other?
when That was when adverts didn't have to tell the truth. What about it's just for me and my dog?
Kiura.
Yeah.
This is fascinating, but I feel we've got some great topics that we could be talking
All
about.
right, yeah. Well, because we're talking about Twitter. What about the dude who was sentenced to 150 hours of community service for posting an offensive tweet,
In
which he later
Scotland.
deleted within 20 minutes? So this
Yeah.
dude posted a tweet saying about Captain Sir Tom Moore, and he said the only good British soldier is a deed one, burn old
deed
fella
one.
burn, because he
Yeah,
was
'cause he's
Irish.
Scottish.
Oh, he's
Scottish.
Scottish. And he got 150 hours for like.
I just
obviously
wanna-
tongue in cheek.
Community service, was it?
Yeah, Vittorio also posted some tasty hot takes about
The Will Smith thing.
no about Captain Tom.
Did he?
Yeah. It wasn't quite as bad as I Want Him Dead, but he got a lot of backlash from it. But it's crazy.
But he got
that-
backlash just for celebrating the death of a much loved national figure who raised millions of pounds for
No,
charity.
He just asked
Yeah.
questions about sort of soldiers of that age.
Yeah. Yeah, but he fought for his country.
I also,
Queen and
this,
country.
it also as Captain Tom was great, but his charity seems to be a bit.
What I like is he raised all this money and then his daughter just swooped in. Like she finishes off the buffet at his funeral, then swoops in and takes like the entire, leaves like £5 in the bank account and takes the
How
rest
many
as a salary.
how many-
Is that
50
nepotism
grand a
as
year,
well?
didn't she?
That's nepotism.
How many mansions has she bought though?
I don't know.
Not as
Black
many
Lives
as-
Matter.
Not, yeah.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter spent all that money. I love it. Oh, I love it. And there's all these companies being like, we're donating to Black Lives Matter. Oh, these are some things you can donate to the Black Lives Matter. Like, obviously, all that money is just whoever gets that money is going to be like, yes, sweet. We got all this money now. And they just used it to buy luxury properties with like swim up bars and tennis courts and stuff. It's like, yeah, proper communism. I love it. I love to see it. I love to see it. I salute. I feel like donating to Black Lives Matter now that I know that's how they're spending the money. I don't want it to help any disadvantaged people. I want somebody to just. I want it to just go towards an eighth of the pina colada they're drinking. That $10 I'm putting in.
What were we talking about?
The guy. Oh yeah, so like restrictions on freedom of speech.
Oh yeah, the Twitter guy.
Oh, yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's mental, and it's going on from the what's the name, the Nazi pug guy, Count Dankula.
Yeah.
It's basically the same sort of law there, isn't it?
Yeah.
If someone takes offence to something in Scotland, they can.
Yeah, I don't think it's even just a Scottish law. I think it's a UK law, but it's the Communications Act, which means that grossly offensive message sent electronically, which
does that count for WhatsApps?
I think it does. Yeah. So yeah, if our group ever gets made public, I got to be honest.
Let's be honest. Anyone's
I think
group.
Ian Wright took. There was some Irish kid who was sending Ian Wright racist messages or something, and Ian Wright took him to court. And it turned out it was like, Aideen knows this story better than me, but it turned out it was like some special needs Irish kid from the middle of nowhere with no money or anything. He was like 11 years old.
Right.
And there was a big court case, and you just thought, who's the victim here?
Ian Wright.
Ian Wright, yeah.
Right. Well, it was, but
I mean,
was that really necessary?
Just because you're Irish doesn't mean you can.
But yeah, I like it when people go and confront their Twitter trolls. It's always like some sort of 11-year-old kid who did it, like as a friend of the family, and they did it secretly and stuff like that.
It's. I think a lot of this is kind of the shit that you learn a bad swear when you were a kid, and you'd say some horrific shit in the playground. But now you can broadcast that to the world, and it gets picked up by everyone. And you're just a moronic kid saying some fucking random naughty.
I learned this early on. There's loads of investor chat boards and stuff, and you go on them and you're chatting to these people, and they write really intelligent, elegant, well-phrased prose and stuff, and you think, oh, this guy must be really clever. I'm going to follow him. Whatever investments he makes, I'm going to copy him. And then you meet him, and it's like some total disaster. Go around his house, and it looks like one of those houses, like the bloke at the end of Silence in the Lambs, who's got his woman in the well and shit like this. And you're like, I'm not following this bloke. And but yeah, how stuff appears in print compared to the actual person that's sending it out, there's quite a big gulf between the two.
There's a big thing on Twitter, like all the in the know football agents. Like there's these accounts who've got all of this gossip on what transfers are being made and what transfer. And there's one called ITN Kayela or whatever. And someone tracked him down, and he's working in KFC. This guy's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and he's just making this shit up. And it's just that's the.
What was he making up? What was he?
Just football transfer rumors.
Oh right.
Yeah, but had a huge following, and now I think he sold the account, but now everyone. Whenever he posts about a rumor, people are just putting in their KFC orders underneath this. Louis C.K. got a Grammy.
Yeah.
And
best comedian.
Yes, and there's been a bit of a kerfuffle.
Some backlash. I saw Mae Martin saying, what if it was male comedians that he'd asked if he could get his dick out and masturbate?
Even funnier.
Yeah. If Louis C.K. had been like that to me, like, can I get my dick out and masturbate? I would have either said no.
Can I get my phone out? Can I get a selfie with you?
I'd be like, no. Or I'd be like, yeah. And then I wouldn't have said yeah and then complained when he did, because I'd said yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing as well. Like, there seems to be a lot of confusion. Didn't he's asked permission?
Yeah.
I mean, we're going over this, and there's something that's happened, 8 years ago? 5 years ago? I can't remember.
They say, obviously it's a bad thing to do. You know what I mean? You shouldn't, ask people if you get your dick out and start masturbating. But, You know what I mean? I think in the scale of things.
He's probably done his punishment now.
Whoa, we've heard from the white man.
Oh,
No, but he probably has. You know what I mean? He had like how many years?
That's
5
how Twitter
years
would
of being
respond.
cancelled or whatever.
Yeah.
do you want to
He's
tweet
probably
that
done
right
his
now?
time.
Yeah. He's done his time.
And you know, if he had the best show this year, then he should have won the Grammy for it.
Do you think his sex crimes actually counted towards it? Because even his sex crimes were pretty funny. I mean, that's when you know you're an elite level comedian.
So was Wagner a shit composer just because he liked Hitler?
Did Wagner like Hitler?
Well,
I thought
think it
Wagner was in the
before
old
but he
days.
was a nationalist, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe Hitler.
Yeah, but
liked
that's
Wagner.
the thing is, like, nationalism and stuff. It really depends. Everything's contextual. You know, being a nationalist. If Russia's invading you, then being a nationalist is good. But if you're invading Poland, being a nationalist is bad.
What if you're Scotland?
If you're Scottish, being a nationalist is generally bad. There is something about nationalists. They always tend to be like, they're not the best genetic material, which is ironic because they usually make a claim that they are.
Yeah.
I think Scotland should go independent.
Yeah, but you're not looking at it from the point of view of like benefiting Scotland. You're looking at it from the point of view of benefiting Dominic Frisby. It'll be another tax haven you can move to.
Well, exactly.
Climb that fence.
It needs to go independent, implode, and then rediscover the
And then you have
spirit of the 18th century that made it great.
And then you have Scottish slaves on your estate.
What's the spirit of the 18th century?
That was when you had all the pioneering Scots who were going off around the world and discovering the world and making fortunes and conquering America and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, now we're not so much into pioneering, we're just into pie.
And brown.
Yeah.
And
It
nearing.
was, I think, in 1911 or something like that. Glasgow was the second richest country in the world, second richest city in the world. Or something
Right.
extraordinary.
Fucking
Wow.
hell. Not anymore.
Glasgow then would be like Beijing is today. So
Right.
Scotland just made everything.
Yeah.
They invented everything and they made it. It was a
I
home
wonder
of
if
shipping
Beijing
and
in 100 years' time is just going to be a load of people with scars on their face. Just go the same way as
there will
Glasgow.
be. It'll probably take 200 years, but there'll be some socialist revolution defending the workers, and it'll rise up, and then the government will get involved, and they'll get involved in some stupid war. Then they'll have to pay penance from the war, and gradually the welfare state will creep up, and it'll end up.
Well, the size of government, the share of GDP that gets spent, that goes to government, is increasing steadily all around the world. Like pretty much in every country, like year by year, it goes up and up. So we're gently being. It's like a frog being like slowly boiled. We're turning into communism.
We're owning less and less of our own labour.
Yeah.
You
What-
will own
what went wrong?
nothing and be happy.
There you go.
Well, Darius, you already own nothing. Are you happy?
Yeah. No, I'm not happy. I'm fucking distraught about owning
you're-
nothing.
You're the angriest person I know.
Yeah, well then, that's why they should give me stuff and be... Oh, actually, that is what they're trying to do. So it
Why-
doesn't work.
Why aren't you angry today? You don't sound very angry today.
I had a good sleep.
What can we say to make Darius angry? Darius, do you see Disney? Disney are putting 50% LGBTQ characters in their films.
I did see that.
Darius is fine with it.
You're kidding.
No.
No, I mean...
No, it's a
you
true
know, but
story.
all
They're
of
actually.
this
How
is
can they
like...
decide before they've written the story or what story they're doing? What the characters are going to be?
Yeah, but it's Disney. They like commission. It's not like there's any sort of
No,
creative.
it's LGBTQIA and racial minorities. So there you go.
So they've got to be both.
Do we? I think a white man is now the minority in London. So if they film it in London, do we get a part in it?
Yeah, that's
You
a good
two
point. Actually, worldwide, because they use that phrase on forums now. World majority means like what traditionally was ethnic minority, but they call it world or global majority.
What is that? Is that? I haven't heard that before. That's
Yeah. No, I keep tabs on all the new forums.
It's world majority, not Chinese.
Yeah. Basically, Chinese. I think black as well. Chinese. Yeah, Southeast Asian and all that.
Woods.
So, but they use it on job forums now. Global majority.
That's
I wonder how many. I'd be interested to know that. What percentage is Chinese? What percentage is black? What percentage?
What percentage of the world?
Percentage is white. Yeah.
Mitch is probably googling it right now.
My
Like
opinion
2
on
billion.
my opinion on Disney and all that is like, listen, kids don't need to learn about sexuality or gender. They don't need to know about sex when they're like 5 years old. They don't need to know you suck your boyfriend's dick. They don't need to know you fuck your wife. They don't need to know these things, man. They don't need. Why are you teaching kids that? Well, why do you want to teach children that?
I'll tell you why they want to teach it. They want everybody. They're trying to make everybody like all non-binary and focused on all that kind of nonsense, so that they're distracted, and then Russia can invade and take us over.
Well, so the argument is, ignoring that, the argument they put forward is,
Russia started this stuff in the 80s. They seeded all this in institutions like university campuses and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long term. It's like a culture, long-term culture.
Part of their thing, what they do with the Belarusian border and Poland and all that. That's another way.
Yeah, another way. Yeah, Syria. Like Russia got involved in Syria to send millions of Syrian refugees to Europe, to destabilize Europe. And
is this and where have you? I know the thing about the refugees.
And it worked.
I wasn't aware
Brexit.
about the institutions and all that.
Yeah.
Where have you got that from?
Darius showed me a YouTube video.
Really?
Yeah, but it's very convincing.
Can you show me, Darius, as well?
I'll have a look for it. But here's the thing: they say, but we got 50%. There's children who come from gay families or whatever. All you have to say is, look, you have a mummy and daddy. He has two daddies. She has two mummies, or whatever the combination may be. They don't need to learn about sex, changing their gender. Any kid who said, I'm a trans kid, and they're 5 years old, has been educated and groomed into saying that. And it's people are like take a step back. So it's funny now because everyone's saying, "Hey groomer," and now all the woke people
groomer.
Oh, you're just calling us pedophiles. Yeah, we are.
And also, it's the whole sort of like taking the rights away from the parents. So, like in Scotland, the named guardian, named parent, named person bill or whatever. So that was like a state person who was responsible for the child rather than the parent. And with all this stuff, like in the schools, they say, we noticed you playing with a soldier instead of a Barbie. So that means you might be a boy. Do you think you might be a boy? And don't tell your parents we've had this conversation, all this sort of stuff. And then they're like, so you can be whatever gender you want at school, but don't tell your parents. And it's all this like, don't tell the parents stuff. Number one, just like kids like gender was never a big deal. It's not ever been this thing. Oh my God, I'm a boy. That means I have to do this. I'm a girl. I have to do this. It's never been that. Look at David Bowie. Look at Hulk Hogan. It's always been a sort of, do whatever the fuck you want. Nobody cares. And why they're making such a big fuss and trying to force people to identify and pick different genders is just, it's sinister. They're trying to weaken Western society so that we can, they're weakening Western society from within. Like people don't see where the threats come from, and also it feeds into Putin. All Putin's propaganda is like, look at the West with their all this like rainbow stuff and the Disney stuff, and Viktor Orban just like yesterday re-elected with an increased majority in Hungary. His whole campaign was like, look at all the Western, the West are going to come here, the EU are going to come here, and they're going to turn all your children into, non-binary, trans, whatever. And
gay frogs.
Man, they've got, while it's happening, they've got a kind of. So how about we just stop? How about we just lay off all that, with the kids? Fair enough, when you get to your teenage years, whatever you want, go nuts. But like with the kids, just leave off. Leave the kids alone.
Hey.
Leave those kids alone. I have to go and get my charger for my laptop. I'll be back.
Okay. Well, we had this argument in the group this week about this Dragtastic summer camp, which got a bit heated.
Yeah.
But have you seen this, Dominic? No. So there's a bit of a hoo-ha about this summer camp calling all current and future kings and queens explore self-expression and in M-Pop's week-long Dragtastic summer camp led by Seattle performer Joshua Hancock. You'll investigate drag history and work together with local artists to create your own persona. You'll choose a name, explore hair, makeup techniques, and develop your character and stage presence. At the end of the week, celebrate your new drag persona with a private showcase.
Oh God.
Well, I don't see. This is for kids aged 12 to 18. In America,
12-year-olds
to 18-year-olds,
12-year-olds getting set like all these like liberal parents trying to do the dinner party one-upmanship by sending their 8-year-old in this fucking drag camp. You know what I mean? I
personally don't see an issue with it at that age. I think at the age of 12, at 12, 13, because 12 to 18. Yeah?
Can't we give them guns? Give them guns.
It's America. They've
Teach them
already
to fight.
got them.
Yeah, but can't we do that instead of like all this, like, you know what I mean? There's,
but also
I
not
played
every
a
kid.
fairy in our Lanthe when I was 7 years old.
look how you turned out.
And it's I
Okay,
don't think
maybe
it's done
we shouldn't do
too
that.
much damage. But, well, I went to an all boys school, and when we did plays, all the younger kids would play women, and the older kids would play the blokes, and that's how it worked in Shakespeare's
That
day.
is the most British private school thing I've ever heard.
No, but that's
You know
how
what I mean?
Shakespeare
I
plays
don't
worked.
say- I-
All the women were played by young boys,
Yeah.
because women weren't allowed on the stage.
They weren't good at
reason.
acting.
And that was Charles II who brought that in with his French ways. And but yeah, until that point, the little boys would play the women, and the but so I think I approve of this.
I
If
don't
the
see an
kids
issue
are
with it.
younger,
I
it's the 12-18 thing. They should be
Yeah.
prepubescent if they're
Yeah.
going to do it.
well, I don't
It's
see an
fun
issue.
when you're a kid dressing up. Yeah, I used to put my mum's clothes on when I was little.
Yeah.
But like everybody does Halloween or whatever, you know what I mean? Or you just want to dance in the pub for some money. But like this is more sinister because they've got like creepy,
Why is this sinister?
creepy Democrats. Like they've got like
Would you rather Trump did his own
they're
one like
getting
this?
them
That would be even weirder.
to touch their.
No, I think
penises.
you gotta understand that not every kid is like has a gunsmith as a dad. Do you know what I mean? Like people are into different things, and there's kids here who probably would love this, and there are other kids who don't want to do this and don't have to do this.
I think it just feeds into the whole narrative that the West is decadent. Sort of. Darius, come on, you were very vocal in the chat. How come you're not saying anything? Did you take your fucking medicine?
Because I'm waiting for a pause so I can fucking have a chance to speak. My opinion is that drag is an adult entertainment kind of form, and it should be left for adults. I also think I agree with Dominic, and I know what you're saying. Oh, it's some kids like dressing up as girls and it's fun. That's fine. That's acting and that's something. But drag is a different kind of thing. Drag is very much it's in clubs, and it originates.
It's no longer just in
sexualized.
clubs, though. It's mainstream now.
And
it's mainstream in the same way that, like you say,
and
comedy.
Darius, what do you think of the Azov Battalion?
What if they had a
Nazis.
drag?
I'm trying to get Darius angry.
I don't know. I just think the drag. Personally, I think drag is a bit like it should be. It's an adult entertainment. Just leave it for adults. Why do
Yeah.
you
And I
want
think
to?
there's part
I think it is an
But
adult
why do you want to
entertainment.
dress up a Mooch? Why do you
Yeah.
personally want to dress up a 12-year-old boy, prepubescent, make him dress as a woman, then put high wig on and put all his makeup on? Why do you and then have him dance to It's Raining
And doing
Men?
this
Why do you
away
wanna
in
be-
a camp in the woods with like a bunch of Hillary Clinton voters.
I think
all getting
if the kid
erections.
if the kid is into that stuff, let him fucking be sort of RuPaul for the week.
No.
Yeah. What? So just like if the kid is inclined to, and that's what he likes, and you've got to understand that like kids are into vastly different shit to what you were when you were a kid because you only had one channel and a rock. Like these kids have got the internet and they've got vast a more broader range of interests, and people who may be into this sort of stuff weren't exposed to it. Now they are, and this is why you've got things like this. And at the age of 12 to 18, I don't think it's a big deal.
I think from the age of like 18 onwards, absolutely fine. Once you're,
So what?
once
You
you're older,
can't, you
16.
Under 11
You can't do dancing when you're
Oh
12.
boy, dancing. What the fuck is this? Prancing like a tit.
Are
Oh
you,
my God.
are
Have you seen Billy Elliot?
He's Scottish.
He's not Scottish in Billy Elliot.
Is he not?
They're from Newcastle or something.
That's close
but
enough.
same kind of thing. But the dad, the dad's like a hero who stops his son being a. I didn't watch the whole
I haven't
thing.
watched the film, so I
I haven't
don't know
watched.
what
I've watched half of it, but the dad was like this hero stopping his son from prancing about like a tit.
Have you? Are you pro gun? Should we have guns legal in the UK?
They are.
Mandatory.
The guns are
They
legal.
should be mandatory.
You can get a gun quite easily.
Yeah. Mooch got a gun.
I didn't. I was going to, but
But
I
if
got
you can
magic
get them
mushrooms
easily,
instead.
why are the kids who are all going around stabbing each other? Why aren't they shooting each other?
Because they're quite expensive still.
And also, it's a worse crime if you shoot someone. The really smart kids are getting these devil dogs and getting them to bite each other.
As they-
just big.
Pit bulls.
Yeah. Because then you face barely any. I mean, if anything, the dog faces the worst. He gets put down or whatever.
Yeah.
But how do they stop the pit bull just from biting an ordinary person?
Well, it's the thing, they're not that reliable. I had somebody try and set a pit bull on me, and the pit bull just sat there like... and then
why did they try and set it on you? You said something.
I got off a bus. I got off the bus at
He was at a drag show,
Holloway
shouting
Road.
at kids.
Yeah, why are the kids in a drag show, like 8 years old, getting money thrown at them? Like, Jesus. Sometimes I wonder what limit we're going to have in society. Like, I think the Rotherham grooming gangs, that was just a warm up for what mainstream public education is going to be like. But I was getting off a bus in Holloway, and there's a guy got off with a dog next to me, and I got off, and he's going this way, I'm going that way. So I just stood and waited for him to walk past me. And he spat in my face. I couldn't believe it. He's spat, and I took my headphone. I was like, you spat in my fucking face, you fucking cunt. I'm going to rip your fucking face off. And the guy got a fright because he didn't know I was Scottish. And he had bags of shopping. He had this pit bull thing
in your face on purpose?
Yeah, deliberately spat in my face. He must have thought I should have got out of his way or something. But I just stood and waited for him to walk around. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but he must have thought I should have got out of his way.
Maybe he's seen your comedy.
So I think this might have been before I did comedy. But yeah, this is quite a while ago. Like, man, you never get any hassle in London these days. But yeah, then he said to the dog, he's like, get him. And the dog's just like...
And then
so then I chased the guy up the street, chased him all the way up, and he got round the corner, and I chased him into this housing estate bit, and he got the fucking chain off the dog. And then he comes back at me whipping at me with this chain, and I was like, fuck this, I'm not losing an eye over this. So I ran back down the way, and then so he chased me back down the street. So we ran past the same people. We ran past the same people on the way up and on the way down. So
then Leo jumped on his 150cc Yamaha and drove off.
I think that was when I had that moped. I can't remember. Around about the same time. It was when I was
Younger.
Young, dumb, and full of cum. Now I'm just full of cum.
Going after Bruce Wayne's ex.
Bruce Wayne?
Batman. When you
Why
were
Bruce?
dating the Batman woman. Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah.
I wasn't dating her.
Or whatever. It was a
I'm
play on
Spunk
words.
Brothers with the original Batman.
Who's your
that
most
the-
famous Spunk brother, Dominic? It's highbrow
He's your
now.
tunnel brother, I think is probably a better word.
What, the person who I've shared a vagina with?
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah.
that means?
Not at the same time.
Yeah.
There's the clip.
I don't know. Jack Nicholson.
Oh.
Ooh, that's-
Really? Jack Nicholson?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Here's Johnny.
That's almost as good as my John Major one.
What?
You're Spunk Brothers with John Major?
Well, obviously not.
Oh no, you could be.
that would be a story. Just who was it?
He was a bit of a play. He had sex with Edwina Curry.
Yeah.
Did he
an
not?
affair.
He's the last.
So did
the
Darius.
only prime minister who didn't go to university.
Yeah, I think so. I know he didn't go to university.
Yeah, I think he's
the last one.
one of the only. I think.
And he ran away
Boris
from the
Johnson
circus.
didn't go to university, did he?
Yeah, Boris did.
Yeah, I'm being stupid.
All right.
So did Darius have sex with Edwina Curry?
That's what he says.
Yeah, I did. Unless that's a crime. And then I didn't.
And that's why there's that salmonella scare, because it made her think about eggs.
No, it's because of the mad cow disease. BSC. I was around. What else has been
Bit of
happening
something
this
extra.
week?
True appeals court orders Oblerian College to pay $25 million to local bakery. It's accused of being racist.
Yeah.
Oh, this might interest you, Leo.
I'll
So
say.
Yeah, so
two students went into the bakery, got caught shoplifting. They happened to be black, so the bakery was like, "Listen, we're going to do you for shoplifting." Then the university said, "Oh, you're picking on our students out of racism." So they were actually shoplifting. Anyway, accused them of being racist. Started a whole campaign.
The
on
university
the campus.
did.
Yeah,
Well, I
the
think it was
university.
students.
No, it was the university joined in. The students started.
Yeah, the
student
university
camp.
joined in, but the students started.
Well, anyway, so then they accused this bakery of racism, and they've lost now, and they owe the bakery $25 million. So the point
$31
is,
million
Leo,
dollars.
you
Because
should
the
get in
fees
touch
as well,
with
$6 million
Rachel
of fees.
Corrin. make some money.
Victoria Corin.
Yeah, whatever her name is. Apparently, she's good at poker, but according to the YouTube users, none of the other poker players like her because they just rely on poker, but she's got loads of other ways to make money, so that
like being rich.
Yeah, so they scrabble to make money.
Is she a limited company?
Probably.
I'm sure she is. Yeah.
Do you know Victoria Corin? Victoria Corin.
I've never met her. No, I mean I've seen her on the telly once or twice.
We've asked her to do the podcast.
I do. I tell you, I know a guy who's very good at poker. He's from Lithuania, called Tony Guoga. I'd like to see. Apparently, he does this thing where he goes really, really quiet, and then just at the moment when you're about to make a decision, he'll kick you under the table and make noises. But
is anyone here any good at poker?
No.
Nah. I've played it a few times, but it's one of those things that takes all night, man. It goes on forever.
Not when I'm playing, because Mooch goes all in all the time. Should we have a poker tournament? Like, should we do that? Maybe that's something we could do for the Patreon or locals that they might find interesting.
Yeah. An online poker tournament.
You could film it in here. Because you can film the hands with cameras.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've never found gambling that much fun.
No, but we could drink.
Yeah.
And take
I want to have an accumulator on a horse come in, first, second, third.
Yeah.
£5 bet into 200 quid.
Yeah.
And that moment when the horse is all alive, it was like 3 yards before the line, they all got into the right formation and went over the line, and it was one of the biggest highs I've ever felt.
Right.
Like, I wasn't I don't get off on gambling, but that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I've tried like heroin, crack cocaine cocktails, and that was better.
Right. No way. Probably about the same. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess the thing with gambling is like it's got to happen. Whereas if you buy some crack, you know you're smoking it.
Maybe it was just so unexpected.
Yeah. But my dad's big into gambling. He doesn't gamble a lot of money, but he studies it. And he actually makes money on what he gambles, and he studies it really hard.
My nan used to make money on it as well. She knew all the horses.
Yeah.
Money, but she'd like penny gambling.
Right.
What should we invest in then, Dominic? What should the Three Speech podcast listeners realistically invest in to make some goddamn cash, some hot money?
Apart from our Patreon.
Tin and copper.
Tin and copper?
Yeah.
How do we go and buy tin and copper?
So we need to steal copper, is what you're saying.
Well, you invest in a company that gets it. So BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto, something like that digs this stuff out the ground. Like and develop. That's a good way to sort of like, and also you're sort of spread.
Tell us exactly what we step by step. You must do this to get this.
Well,
Rio Tinto means nothing to us.
There's loads of. If you want to do it, you can either buy the metal itself, so you can be a little bit mental and go down the scrapyard and buy the metal, or you can you could spread bet the metal, so you could bet that the price is going to go up. Or you could buy shares in a company that mines for the metal. But in the specific case of tin, there's just a massive shortage. You sort of think tin is like tin cans, like that tin can that's on the table. But every single semiconductor in the world contains tin because they need the solder to conduct the electricity. And semiconductor use is going up. They need it for the electric batteries in the cars. And the amount of tin in a semiconductor got less and less because they got more efficient, but it's reached the point where they can't use any less tin, if that makes sense. So tin consumption can only grow.
How much is that ambrosia tin worth?
It comes with some custard.
5p or something, but there's been like decades of underinvestment in tin, and there's just very few companies that do it. So tin is my tip, followed by copper.
Put it back in the middle.
I invested in uranium.
I think you'll do fine with that.
Yeah, it's already doubled.
Yeah, well done. Which company?
Cameco.
Okay, brilliant. Well done.
Like there you go. Nico's going mad right now.
Yeah.
Uranium's going to go up. At the moment, it's all about hard assets and things like uranium, oil, because we've been too dependent for too long on dodgy countries, and everyone's going to reassess their strategic positions. And
the thing that pisses me off. So I invested in oil companies when oil was in a trough. And then oil went in more of a trough because everybody was like, oh, we've got to listen to Greta Thunberg for some reason. And we're going to pretend that we don't, all these cars that run on oil aren't going to run on oil. So nobody was developing any oil or anything. And then like the Ukraine crisis and stuff. So like now the price of oil is spiked and it's shot up. And still my oil shares aren't. And they're the ones.
Which ones are they?
Tullow, Rockhopper, so Falklands, Africa.
Falklands oil and gas.
And also BP, which is sort of, global.
Yeah, BP and Shell are rubbish. So they've been infected with woke.
Yeah.
And the other problem is, they're all making out their green energy companies. No, you're not. You make oil and just be proud of the fact that you make oil.
And do the oil.
Remind people what oil has made possible for mankind.
Yeah.
You never hear that side of the thing. It's because of oil that we have the life we have.
Yeah.
And those companies should be promoting the product in that way, and they
Yeah.
don't. But anyway, the oil price goes up and BP and Shell never do by the same extent.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So
And
which oil company should I invest in?
Probably the best overall sectors, probably the Canadian ones, all the Canadian tar sands projects, because their cost of production is very high, but when the oil's high, like let's say their cost of production is $50 a barrel and oil's $60 a barrel.
Yeah.
So they make $10 a barrel. The oil price only needs to go from 60 to 70 for the
Return to
profits
triple.
of that company to double, if that makes
I
sense. So
see.
the ones with high production costs. And those are the
Why
Canadian
does
tar
it only
sands.
need to go $20 to make their company double in price then?
Because
Because their profits were $10. So if the oil price goes up $10,
you're looking at
Ah,
a
I see.
margin.
Okay.
And also, the American government has set a price of $80 for reopening. So anybody who reopens fracking or tar sands or whatever in North America, the American government guarantees a price of $80.
Have they done that?
Yeah.
So oil could go back to $20 and they'd still get $80.
Yeah.
So that's just a loss-free. But if oil goes to $200, they can charge $200 for their barrel.
I'm not sure if it's like, I'm not sure the exact how it exactly works. If they like have to buy in a contract and a futures contract. That's another thing. Like the oil,
not having that pipeline. No.
energy. Oh yeah, totally. That was the first thing he did, first day in office.
Dumbest thing he could have done.
Kills that Keystone pipeline. Yeah,
Is
absolutely,
that
absolutely
the
ridiculous.
American Indian one?
Yeah, I think so. It went from Canada down to the Gulf, did it?
Somewhere like that. Yeah.
Why did he
And-
kill it?
Woke.
Yeah. Oil is
Trying to
bad.
undo everything Trump did.
Great. Yeah, and it was linked to Trump and stuff.
I think it was there was some concerns over some water and also some Native American land or something like that.
It was environmental reasons that
Yeah.
they did it, but they just need to get over it.
Yeah. And obviously the environmental regulations are tighter in Europe and in America than they are in Russia. Like the oil that's being got out of the ground in Russia is going to be hugely
I know,
environmentally
we may as well do it
devastating.
here and do it better and
Yeah.
do it to a higher standard, because the more sophisticated human beings get, the better we get at consuming energy. We consume more energy, but we also consume it better in a cleaner way. Like if you look at how a Stone Age man would light, catch an animal, he'd light the whole fire, set the whole forest on fire in order to drive the animal into the hole.
Yeah.
And look at the environmental damage and the waste there. We're much better at, now we farm the animal. Or
I still do it that way.
Yeah.
I get down Regent's
So we're
Park.
just far less
That's how Leo
wasteful
pulls.
and better.
Yeah, a nice pit full of women.
And the whole climate change argument, it's like the IPCC or whatever they're called had their thing about climate change just this week. They've said again for about the 85th time, it's now or never.
Yeah, it's been never for a long time.
Yeah.
As long as I can remember, the world's been about to end.
But they,
It's mental.
yeah. But anyway, so they set their thing, and that organisation exists to spread BS about climate change in order to fund itself, and so they all get salaried. The exact same opposite should apply to BP and Shell and all the oil companies. They should be spreading the narrative because it's their product that justifies their existence. But in any case, the whole thing is doomed to failure because coal is the worst offender when it comes to pollution, and over 50% of coal is consumed in China, which does not give a shit about the whole climate change arguments. So you cannot win that argument. And the idea that the UK, which is like 85th in the world list of coal consumers, by changing its habits is going to make any difference whatsoever, it's just nonsense. So they should just forget the whole argument and work out on how to produce the stuff which we have to the highest standard possible, in the cleanest way possible, and everyone else can just go and do one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Paul Yoward, friend of the podcast, he's done a lot of very detailed research that shows that we're actually, if anything, CO2 in the atmosphere is like almost dangerously low. So if it gets down to 150 parts per million, all life on Earth ceases. We can't live. Plants can't survive. It's currently above.
So we need to burn coal to survive.
Basically, yeah, because
Thank you, China.
nature is constantly sequestering carbon. If you look at the White Cliffs of Dover, if you look at all the limestone everywhere, that's seashells, that's sea animals that drew carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and from the sea and created shells with it, and then it's been compressed into stone. And that carbon is not going back into the atmosphere. So we used to have 8,000 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It went down to, before fungi saved us all, it went down to, pretty close to 150 parts per million. Then, in the 80s, start of the 80s, it was about 300 and 350 or something. Now we're up at about 415. So it has come up a bit. But there's a lot of benefits with having more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So we're seeing the greening of arid areas because plants don't need to open their stomata as wide to let carbon dioxide in because there's more carbon dioxide in the air. And, we're seeing crop yields going up. Other stuff.
Did you get all that from The Economist?
No, The Economist would
Another
never
YouTube video.
tell the
Never
truth
say that
about.
stuff.
They never say that stuff.
But why are
That's
trains
it.
so expensive?
Exactly, and that's another thing. Why are trains so expensive? And why is Barack Obama and
Public-private
everybody?
partnership.
Why is everybody like
Crony
Barack Obama?
capitalism.
Why are they all buying houses at sea level? If sea levels are going to rise, why are they spending $45 million on a house at sea level?
That's very
Why
true.
won't you just tell me the fucking price for a train ticket? Why does it always have to guess? Like, just have a standard price.
Yeah.
The tube's a standard price. Why is it you just make them up as you go along?
Yeah,
Son
and there's
of
so
a
many
bitch,
different
train
ways. And now there's these split ticketing websites where you buy a ticket and it goes I go to Swindon every Tuesday and it goes. So now I get
Why did you go to Swindon?
to do the Lotus Eaters podcast.
Ah.
Yeah. Oh man, you should get on
Is that
It's
the Carl
fun.
Benjamin one?
Yeah.
I think I've been invited to do that.
Yeah, it's
They
worth
didn't
doing.
tell me it was in bloody Swindon.
That's the
That's why I do it. That's the
Yeah.
Leo's got a good split ticket company you can.
Yeah,
I love that split ticket.
Well, they'll pay for your ticket and stuff, but yes, you got to get a split tickets each way, and then oh man, it's such a pain in the arse.
But why don't they just have one price and that be that?
Just a one price, and also how can it possibly be cheaper if I get a ticket to Didcot and then a ticket from Didcot to Swindon, and then how can that make it cheaper? I'm going to the same place on the same train in the same seat. I think actually train companies are some that could be nationalised, and because it's just
the
too.
best, it's like the definition of crony capitalism, and everything that's wrong with this country is public-private interest, where a private company gets awarded a national monopoly. It's like the worst situation. Because if you had a free market, another company could come along and build a train line next to the existing train line, and they could all compete, and the one who builds the best train line at the lowest prices would win.
Yeah.
But that's not possible. And so the whole thing. It's almost better to be nationalised, but I speak as one who remembers nationalised trains in the 70s,
But
and they
not
were
good.
crap.
All right.
They were cheap.
Well, they're rubbish now.
But at least
though.
they're cheap.
They were
rather than
cheap, but they were
expensive.
never on time.
I don't care
Well,
about being on time.
Now
I
they're
want it to be
expensive
cheap.
and never on time.
Well, that's true. They were.
And also-
believe me, they were worse than they are now.
Yeah, but the
And I hate
trains
the
now,
trains.
the money goes to the Italian government. It's half of it's owned by flipping the Italian government and the
Well,
French
they make
government.
really good trains in Italy, and the French do. Why can't they?
Why are
make
you
good trains
racist
for us?
against Italians, Darius? Why don't you want
Because
them?
they-
fun.
because they charge too much for the train tickets.
Yeah.
That's why.
Also, it's complicated
it.
buying them online.
I like it is complicated. I like Italians.
So, to get rich, we should buy
Trains.
mining stocks.
Tin and
Although,
copper.
to be honest, you should have bought mining stocks about 5-6 years ago when I
Yep.
bought them because they're super, super cheap. This is the thing. Industries like mining are cyclical, so they'll have troughs. And
They're not cheap anymore, but they're still. I think
they're still good
They're
value.
still going higher.
Man, I bought them and they were so cheap. Rio Tinto, BHP Billiton, and also they pay a dividend every year.
do.
They pay a dividend, and the dividend is it's way better than you get in a bank account. And also
There's
you
a
can
stock
put,
that's listing on the FTSE, I think next week, called First Tin, and if you can buy that around 30p, that's my tip.
first 10 at 30p.
There you go.
It's running in the Grand National.
And its ticker symbol is 1SN because SN is the chemical symbol for tin.
That's like 3SP. There should be a company called 3SP listed, and we buy shares in that.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be going. I'm not sure 30p will be exactly what we'll trade at.
And also, you can have your share trading account in an ISA wrapper, so then it's exempt from all taxation.
Yeah, we'll buy Bitcoin.
Until they come for it, which they will eventually.
They won't. Never. They won't touch our ISAs. They promised.
They'll never touch
change.
my Acer.
There'll be an emergency, and they'll come for them.
Really?
I think so.
I can't imagine there.
There'll
When's there
be-
been an
it'll be a
emergency?
Well, there'll be a climate emergency, or there'll be some kind of
Oh, so Israel.
pandemic or something. They'll declare an emergency, or there'll be a war or something, and they'll have some reason, and they'll
These
come.
motherfuckers. So what can I do to then I have to buy
You just have to hold it.
actual gold?
Yeah, you could do.
No,
that.
Actual
buy
lumps of
tin.
gold.
He's just told you. Buy actual
But that's a company
tin.
that mines tin.
Yeah,
Or tin.
I'm gonna buy lumps of gold and put it under the house.
there's a few. I think there's like
I'm gonna go mine under your
984.
house.
I can't remember. There's something like 1,000 ISA millionaires,
Right.
and when that number's like 100,000, which it will be because of inflation and everything else,
Yeah.
they'll come for the ISA money.
Man, they're already stealing my money with inflation.
I know.
Quantitative easing, the biggest theft.
I know.
Steals money.
Taxation without legislation.
Yeah. Darius, why aren't you angry this week?
I'm just listening. I'm actually. This is an interesting conversation, mostly when Dominic's talking about stuff. It's
Yeah, when
just
Dominic's
interesting.
talking, it's very quite interesting.
Well, I already know all your theories. I don't know about. I heard that now is a good time to move your savings and leverage it on debt. So to take out thing and pay off your credit card over a long term at the same price or a mortgage, because your money will be worth the same instead of going down.
Well, I think interest rates are going to have to go
Did
up
I
at
explain-
some
did I
point
explain?
soon.
They have to.
Yeah,
but
because
if it's a fixed rate.
so is that what you're saying?
Interest
Going
rates
on a
are
fixed rate?
Yeah, that's what-
at 0.75% at the minute. Inflation, official inflation is whatever it is, 7%, but real inflation's above 10%.
Yeah.
Like house prices are up 10%. Why don't they include house prices in the inflation measures?
Yeah, because you have to live in a house.
You are losing, of course you do. I mean, it's like basic, but so you are losing 10%. Like if your salary is £100 a week, that you're losing 10% of that a year. So effectively, your salary is £90 a week next
Yeah.
year.
And if you got money in the bank, you've been saving up, all that money's getting stolen off you by the government. Every time they
So what
print
should-
a new pound with quantitative easing, they've printed nearly £1 trillion
So
since.
why are you pro The Economist? The Economist doesn't say this shit.
The
So where
Economist
should
isn't
you
like a
put your
massive fan
£90,
of.
It
Dominic?
loves quantitative easing.
Well, they used to when we were in a period of constant expansion and
Oh, has it
low.
changed its tone now?
I think it has changed its tone in quantitative easing.
The tin and copper are in it, but as Leo says, it is cyclical, and I don't think you can go wrong with Bitcoin.
Which you
There
can
you go.
spend easily.
Doesn't pay a
Bitcoin
dividend. No intrinsic
got
value.
any?
Huh?
You've not got any.
Bitcoin.
Is like
I've got.
he's got
I think I've got
bits of
£8.50 worth of Bitcoin. Let's see how much it's
Bitcoin is
worth.
tech for right wing people, Leo. You
Yeah.
should
Yeah,
have
but I
it.
missed
It's
the
right up
boat,
there.
and now I
You
hate
know
it.
you
haven't
haven't. You haven't. Oh, Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Just buy grand's worth or something.
I've got
just so
eight
that
Buy
you-
how
Maybe
how
not
do they
this
buy it, Dominic? How do you buy the Bitcoin using what?
You could buy an exchange.
Yeah, buy an exchange.
Go to Bitstamp or
But
Coinbase
not
or any
someone
of them.
like Coinbase is rubbish.
Coinbase is probably the biggest and safest.
We should get Thor Holt on,
Yes.
and he'll tell. He's a Bitcoin expert. I think he got like a bunch of Bitcoin back in the day. We'll get
What
Thor
is he the
Holt on.
comedian for? The one who
No,
did
well,
Hate
he did.
Live?
He did.
Podcast.
No, he tried. He did try. He's tried
I wrote
comedy
the
up in
first fucking
Aberdeen.
book on Leo, on Bitcoin Leo. I'm literally like the Bitcoin OG.
Don't listen to him.
Thor
We'll get Thor
emails
on.
me and asks me stuff to tell him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I know more about it than pretty much anyone.
How much Bitcoin have you got, Dominic?
Mind your own business.
How much? Have
You,
you
always,
got
you
a
never
hold on?
ask that. You just ask if you've got some. You never.
How
ask
much do you weigh?
86 kilos, which is 6 kilos.
86 Bitcoin.
Do you have more Bitcoin than you weigh?
Clever question.
How
I'm not
fat
answering
would you
that.
be if you were weighed in Bitcoin?
On a scale of 1 to Sophie Hagen.
Would you be fabulously beautiful or wretchedly ugly? Wretchedly
Yeah.
ugly being 0.
Would you,
fabulously
how brave
beautiful.
would you be?
How brave
How
would you be?
How brave would you be? How many Adidas adverts would they make of you saying impossible is nothing?
Keep them coming,
Would you
Darius.
would you star in an Adidas advert? Would you be that brave?
I don't even know what he's asking anymore.
No, but
seen these
I
Adidas
think I would
adverts
because
where-
they'd make me look good.
It's a big
I mean,
fat.
Show
one.
everyone
Show
would
the
laugh at it.
Adidas advert so they can get a visual.
So they understand the
impression
joke.
of- So they understand the joke. so you get a visual impression of what I mean.
The Adidas advert featuring the body positive person. I've noticed that
I did voices for Adidas ads back in the day, back in the 90s.
Oh, really?
How do you do voices?
Adidas and Reebok.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Rival brands.
Yeah.
What was it?
They didn't
I am.
check.
I am
Impossible.
impossible. Just put
Impossible is
Adidas
nothing.
advert or something.
Just put Adidas fat chick.
I've got
I
a
have.
yeah.
There's loads coming up.
Yeah.
I am possible. Here we go.
Your dad's in the crowd, the game's on TV, and you're marking Ryan Giggs. Should have worn your Reeboks.
Was that you?
That was the ad, yeah.
I wasn't marking Ryan Giggs. That's not true.
This lady is possible, but I imagine she's impossible.
Oh my God, is that Adidas? What are they thinking? How is that going to appeal to aspirational young kids?
Don't know.
They're trying
Everybody
to-
aspires
they-
to be fat now.
They're trying to get
God.
get your bank
They're not
balance on
selling
screen.
like beauty soap to middle-aged women. They're trying to appeal to sporty blokes in their teenage years.
But I
Yeah.
suppose these are the people who should be getting into sport. When you
Oh.
look at it that way, I think that's
a
what,
good point.
What they're doing, you know, it's like, listen, we don't need someone with a six-pack on here. They've
Yeah.
done the work. Let's get Tubby McGee over
My
here.
Yeah.
two
to-
sons are
to-
both obsessed with training shoes, and they're not going to buy training shoes as a result of seeing that advert. They're not going for their target market.
It suggests the training shoes have a lot of support. Carry a lot of.
Guys,
Has anyone read the Nike book? Sorry,
the Nike book?
the autobiography of the bloke who started Nike.
No.
It's supposed to be really, really good. I
Right.
thought one of you
Well,
might
that's
have read
good.
it.
No.
Just do it.
Anyway.
Read it.
Have you got anything
That
to
was a
plug?
good anecdote.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Do you
Can I
want to
plug
plug it?
something? So I've got a Substack newsletter which is free, unless you go for the paid option, in which case you have to pay for it. But I've got loads of material on there, including special tips on tin, copper, gold, and this weekend Bitcoin. I do one on Bitcoin, especially for you, Leo.
Yeah. I've seen that thing.
Frisby.substack.com.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's good.
Frisby.substack.com. Anything to
Yeah.
anything to plug, Leo?
No, just my YouTube. Go to my YouTube. I just did a video about Victoria Corrin. Just a big.
It's very funny, actually. I showed
big
it to my
spiteful
mum,
video.
and there was one bit where I actually snorted and a bit of booger came out. There was
There
one
you go.
bit.
Is that
which
the,
was-
the bum holes?
Yes. No, was it? Was it that bit? Or...
All right.
I can't remember. There was one bit I was just like, oh, yeah, it was hilarious.
Right. Thank you.
I'm coming to Birmingham this Saturday, so this might be out just in time. Other than that, nothing really to promote.
Are you doing Daryl's gig?
I'm doing Just a Tonic Birmingham, and then I'm in.
How much is that paying these days?
Like 150
75, I think.
quid or something.
Oh,
Jeez.
150.
It might be. I don't know. I haven't looked.
I got 180.
Might be
I
100.
did it.
Yeah, I got 240.
Well, that's,
Oh, I got 300 for it.
It's the inflation.
Yeah, how come inflation doesn't ever affect comedy gigs?
Oh man! You get the rates are low. Like when you were doing Jongleurs.
Yeah.
This isn't me slagging off Daryl, by the way, but when you did Jongleurs Birmingham in the early noughties, you get 250 quid.
Yeah.
Now it's like 150. It's the same room, same gig.
Yeah.
You've said that you've had this conversation a few times. I'm
No, I don't think we actually have. I don't think
No,
we
we
It's like
just
the
don't
one
wanna,
thing where salaries have gone
Daryl's one of the few promoters who still books me, so I don't want to.
No, I said I'm not slagging Daryl because Daryl's obviously looked at all the numbers.
Yeah.
And he can only make money. Those gigs can only exist with pay at that rate. I wasn't slagging Daryl off. I'm just making the comparison of how much less gigs pay than they did.
Yeah.
Do you think comedy's getting in a better state though, or do you think how has recessions affected comedy before?
Well, the old what's the word? The cliche is that comedians laugh all the way to the bank during a recession. So the 1930s depression, for example, saw the rise of silent comedy, golden age of silent comedy. 1970s was the golden age of British sitcoms and comedy, but then they all got cancelled in the 80s by Ben Elton and all that lot in the first cancel wave. But so in theory, I don't think we are in a depression at the minute or a recession, but the logic is people need to laugh more
Yeah.
when times are hard.
But I think disposable income's going to be going down with
that's a far
cost of living.
Yeah. That's definitely.
But comedy's a cheap night out.
I think attendance at comedy clubs is lower now than it was 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
I think because there was a bit of relief 6 months ago. We're let out for the first time.
Yes,
I might be wrong.
Yes
Might just
and
be
no.
my gigs, but
No, yes and no. I think it's kind of, there was definitely a surge when there was a relief, and it was kind of one of the first few things we were able to go out to. But then when people were allowed to go to festivals and nightclubs and stuff like that, that's received a surge, or it received a surge in ticket buyers, and people forgot about their tickets, and there was a lot of no-shows.
Right.
It's a really, really weird time, but I think it's, as someone who runs a comedy club now, it's kind of, we're in a better position now than we were 6 months ago, for sure.
I'll tell you a big problem that live comedy's got is
White people.
No, that's an asset. In the 90s, there was no stand-up comedy on the telly. After about maybe 97 or 98, or there was hardly any until Michael McIntyre came along in whenever that was, 2005, 2006. So the only place you could see stand-up was to go to clubs, and there was just this huge build-up of fantastic acts, and there was more and more and more of them, going up against the dam of then being none on telly. Then suddenly Live at the Apollo happened, and suddenly all those acts got on Live at the Apollo, and loads of viral videos, brilliant 20 minutes acts, and a lot of those guys, did really well. And the problem with now is that there's so much stand-up on the telly, and it's so bad. It's just like you watch Live at the Apollo and you're like, this is like an open mic night. This is just awful. It's just like, how are you serious? Are you seriously doing this on television? And it's like, I know you're looking. I'm not going to name names, but somebody will come on stage and they'll go, oh, I know what you're thinking. You think I look like this, that, and the other. And you're like, no, I don't. I never thought that for a second. You're just literally projecting on that on me and now doing a joke about it. That's how straw men work. And so the whole thing is just so shit. And so like almost dishonest because it's not even about anything, and it's like the worst possible advert for stand-up comedy. And then you see there's so many brilliant acts on the circuit, you don't get a sniff of telly, and you're like, you're losing work because the people that are getting on the telly are so shit. People are watching it going, oh fuck, I don't like stand-up comedy, I'm not going to that. And so it's actually, whereas before, when Michael McIntyre came through, it was like a good advert for it, and now it's just like a bad advert.
Well, I think one other thing you have to really hammer home is that stand-up comedy is meant to be enjoyed in a small room. It's so much better when there's an atmosphere there, and even the best. You can watch a Chappelle or a Bill Burr or a Leo KEARSE YouTube video, and you'll chuckle a bit, but you won't ever laugh the same amount as you would if you were in a comedy club.
No, for sure. And it's absolutely 100% for sure. I mean, I feel I can't stand stand-up comedy sometimes.
Well, and also
most of the time, like Aideen's always listening. She's watching this is my other half, and she's always watching all the other acts and working out what they're doing. And she's a real student, and she goes, "This guy's doing this," and deconstructs all his jokes. And I just hear it. Like I'll be walking through the room or something, and she's watching, and I hear it, and I just go, "Oh fucking hell, this is just awful! How can you listen to it? How can it even exist? How can somebody not only have written that, but then keep repeating such inane shit? It's awful."
Tell us how you really feel, though. Come on.
Because they don't really say. I mean, if you look at the people who've really blown up and got big, Mo Gilligan, Adam Rowe, Paul Smith, and these are people who've made it on their own through social media, through direct connection with their audience.
Mo Gilligan had a good agent as well.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But yeah.
But Adam Rowe, man, that guy, Paul Smith, like,
Sure.
They weren't getting picked up. They weren't in London. They weren't getting picked up by the agents and stuff. They made it happen themselves.
Sheer weight of momentum.
Yeah.
And
Adam's lost a lot of weight now.
But Adam relies a lot on social media. He's used social media really, really well, I think.
Yeah.
Mo got his break at Channel 4 and spiraled from there.
Right.
But he was unstoppable, and they had to. He was so big
on Instagram and stuff.
Okay. So he used social media as well.
His social was so big that they had to, and he was.
Then what happens is the TV company's giving the guy the gig because they think they'll get their followers off.
They'll bring the audience with them.
Yeah, and that's not what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be the platform for the undiscovered guy.
Yeah.
And then the TV executive goes, well, we got Mo Gilligan, and he's got 10 million followers on Instagram, and their decision to hire Mo is justified on the basis that he's got the followers on Instagram, or they'll go, oh, he was in such and such a thing, we got him, that's why, and they justify it on that, not on the basis of their own judgment of what's actually funny.
Yeah. But all this woke stuff, man, I see a lot of obviously Netflix, like the big acts, Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, when they put the specials out, obviously brilliant. But then the people that are given the sort of the smaller acts, it's all this sort of Soho theatre crowd, and they're just pretty shit. You know what I mean? And I don't think people are watching them. I don't think people are watching those specials. People are watching the Bill Burr special, the Chris Rock special, the Dave Chappelle special. They're not watching, some lassie who just gets whoops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I agree with what this person says about, gender ideology, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
But all you can do is carry on doing what you two are both doing, and eventually, there'll be too much momentum, and they can't stop you, Leo.
In the year 2076, me, Darius, and Mooch, finally break free, reach escape velocity.
Yeah.
I remember I did a thing on a radio show a few years ago. I mean, this is just so bereft of. I probably shouldn't. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to say it. I better not say it.
It's all right. It's all right. We've got an answer.
I can't. That's really bad.
We've already got enough to bury your career. Don't worry.
Dominic,
all right.
lovely
Bye,
to meet you.
Thanks very much, Mooch. Nice to meet you. Have fun at Bitcoin conference.
Yes.
Yeah. I knew we'd get Darius angry eventually. Just had to get him talking about Oxbridge comedy stuff.
Sons of bitches. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers, Darius. See you soon.
See you, mate.